I'm sorry, is that true? No, not mem, daf mem. I made a mistake, daf mem. Achol leave him to. So we had once before that the Yavam, we had on the Chav Dalet. There was a drush of the pasuk vaya b'char sheteli yekom Hashem achiv hameis. So this Mishnah also talks about that point about Yerusha, that the Yavam inherits the brother. Besides getting his wife, he takes his wife, but he also inherits him. So that's going to be the Mishnah. If he doesn't do Yibum, he does chalitza, then he's like anybody else as far as the Nachla. And if there's no father, so then all the brothers, there's no son, obviously. That's the case that the man doesn't have any sons. So who inherits? So according to the order of inheritance, if there's a father, the father would inherit. And if there's no father, then the brothers inherit. So here the Mishnah says that if he did Chalisa, there's no specialty about him as far as Yerusha, and therefore he's like all the other brothers. If there's a father, the father gets it. If there's no father, so then they'll divide it with the rest of the brothers. But if he did Yibum, so he's the one who Yarashins. He gets the whole inheritance. And the Pashas is like the Tanakama, that even if there's a father, he gets the whole Yerusha. But Rabbi argues, if there's a father, then the father gets the inheritance of his son who died, even though there's a Yavam who's going to do Yibum. And Rabbanan Tanakam argues and says no, that in any case, even if there's a father, the Yavam gets the Yerusha. So this is summarized the Mishnah. When there's Chalitza, so then the Yerusha goes as normal, whatever is normal. And that is that if there's a father, the father gets it. If there's no father, then the brothers get it and divide it equally. And if there's Yibum, so everybody would agree that if there's no father, so then the Yavam gets it, the whole inheritance, and the brothers don't get. But if there's a father, Tanakama holds also that the Yavam gets it. Abud holds no, that if there's a father, the father gets it. Pshita. The Gemara is asking on the ratio.
That's Pshita.
So what's Pshita? The Gemara says Pshita on the beginning. So Rashi learns a little different. I would learn the simple Pshita on the Gemara. Pshita, the Gemara understood that of course if he does Chalitza, he shouldn't get. Rashi learns a little different, but either way is going to come out the same. That it says if he does Chalitza, he doesn't get any of the inheritance. So Pshita, he didn't do. The pasuk says that means when he does Yibum. So Pshita that he doesn't get the Yerusha if he did Chalitza. You might have thought that he does get that, even though he did Chalitza, but he did something, he freed her. So you might think that Chalitza is the same as Yibum, just like by Yibum he gets the Nechasim, so too by Chalitza he should get all the Nechasim. No, if he does Chalitza, then he's like anybody else. But the Gemara says it doesn't fit into the words. The Mishnah says that he does Chalitza, he's like one of the brothers. If it's coming to say that he does not get the whole Nachla, then it shouldn't have said neutral that he's like one of the brothers. It should have said it should have stressed that he's only like one of the brothers. If it would mean to say that he doesn't get the whole nachla, means what are the two choices we're talking about? Either he gets everything or he just gets like any one of the brothers. If we thought that he would have gotten everything and we're coming to say no, he doesn't get everything, it's like anybody else, it should not have said he's like one of the brothers. It should have said he's only like one of the brothers. It means we're saying the same thing, that's Kechem and Achin, but are you coming to stress that it's not better? If it comes to say that he's not better than them, then it shouldn't say he's like one of them. It should have said he's only like one of them. It should have downgraded him that he's not better, he's only like one of them. The fact that it says he's like one of them, sounds a little bit like it's coming to say that he is like one of them. Don't think that he's less. It means the Gemara is going to talk about the Havamina was that he's better than the rest of the brothers or he's less than the rest of the brothers. So the words are mashma that it's coming to say a chiddush, he's like one of the brothers. You might think that he's less than the rest of the brothers. You might think that he doesn't get anything. You might think since he gave her chalitza and he's the one who pushed her away, that he shouldn't be building. He's not building his brother's family. So you might think it's a reason why he should lose and not get anything. He gets like everybody else. So it comes out the same as either way. It comes out the same that he's like anybody else. The question is it coming to say a chiddush that he doesn't get everything, or is it coming to say a chiddush that he doesn't get that he doesn't lose everything? You might think he doesn't get anything, but either way, it comes out the same that he gets like everybody else. He's not better. He's not worse. If he gives chalitza, don't think that he's like Yibum, and don't think that he's worse because he pushed her away. It comes out that he's the same as everybody else. He gets the nachla like any other brother. And the halacha is if there's no father, then all the brothers divided equally. And in Yeshamav, the Mishnah says that the father would get it, then that's the regular din of Yerusha. That in the order of Nachla, always the father goes before anybody, any of his descendants. So if there's a son that died, so first you go up one generation to the father. If he's existing, then it goes to him. If not, then it goes to his sons, and then it goes again. If none of them are available, are alive, then you go up another generation to the grandfather. If not, it goes to his sons. So that's the order of Yerusha. The father goes before his sons. So too, if there's a father here, so when the son without children dies, so then the Yerusha goes to his father. If not, then it goes to the sons. Then the Mishnah said, the Kodesh Shivim to he gets the Nachla. The Kodesh Shivim to my time, Yakom al Shem Achiv Rachmana Rabbeikam. So this is really a drasha. The Gemara here makes it simple, but really in Chav Daled, the Gemara said that the Pashut words might have meant that he's supposed to get the name. He's supposed to name the baby that's born from Yibum to give him the same name as the deceased brother. And the Gemara says a drasha say that it doesn't mean that. Yaakov means Lanachla. Here doesn't say all the details. It just says that the Pasuk is coming to say that he gets his inheritance. And Ayin Sham and Chav Daled to see more details of the drasha. That's what it comes out. That the Torah says that he is in place of his brother, Vareikam, since he did Yibum, so he's Zocha to get the Nachla. Rabbi says even though he gets the Nachla, it's only if there's no father. But if the father's alive, the father of this deceased man that died without children, so he gets the Nachla even though the son did Yibum. So two Amaram, Ula, they say Lach Zakav Yehuda. Stay tuned, don't go away because it's going to change. But so far the Gemara says that the Lach Zakav Yehuda, that the father gets the Nachla even if there was Yibum done. Now they want to know what's the reason of Rabbi Yehuda. Where does he get it from? That the father gets Nachla even if the son does Yibum. That's the pasuk we learn out that the oldest one does Yibum. Again, the Pashup Pshat sounds like the firstborn of the new couple, the brother-in-law that married the Yevama. So then the son that's born, that's the Pashup Pshat. But the Gemara says over there that don't read the Pashup Pshat, and even the Drash is okay. The Pashup Pshat Lagamri. Vaya B'char Sheteled means that B'chor means that the oldest one of the remaining brothers should do Yibum, and Asheteled over there says Pratla Islanders. But anyway, he calls this one who's doing Yibum, he's called the B'chor. Not the son who's going to be born is called the B'chor, but the one who's doing Yibum is called the B'chor. In what way is it B'chor? Ma B'chor ein lo b'chayav, v'afai nami ein lo b'chayav. It sounds like a far drash to say that just like a B'chor, when he inherits, he only inherits after the father dies. Of course, when the father's alive, there's no inheritance. The whole din of a B'chor, he gets double, whatever it is. The whole yichas of a B'chor is only when the father dies. So too, the whole din of here that we're saying that is a Nachla, that the Yavam gets a Nachla, is only the same way a B'chor gets a Nachla. Just like a B'chor gets a Nachla after when there's no father. So too, the Yavam, even though he's not yashining his father over here, he's yashining his brother. But he only gets the Yerush from his brother if the father is not living anymore. If the father's living, then he doesn't get it, the father gets it. I don't understand the drasha well, but that's what, because the B'chor, to say it's B'chayav, it sounds like a far drash. But the Gemara says that the whole din of Yerusha of a B'chor is only after the father dies. So too, this Yavam that's going to yashin his brother is only after the father dies. But if the father's living, he gets the Yerusha. You might think also another drash to learn out that the Yavam is like a B'chor that he gets Pishnayim. What is Pishnayim from over here? It seems like Pishnayim would be from, Rashi says, he'd get Pishnayim from the father's estate of what he got from the brother. It sounds like Rashi is saying that. I think Rashi maybe means, I'm not sure, that Rashi might mean that when the father dies, so just like if the deceased brother would have been alive, he would have, all the sons of this father that died would have gotten an achla. So now that the Yavam is taking over the part of his brother, his deceased brother, maybe he gets a double portion. He gets his portion and the portion that his brother would have gotten from his father. I think that maybe that's what Rashi means. So how does it read over here? After when the father does die, he's going to get a double portion, his portion from in the father's estate, and also his deceased brother's portion that he would have gotten. No, me the Yokam al Shem Aviv Ksiv, Yokam al Shem Aviv Ksiv, below al Shem Aviv. That's the whole thing about the Bechor getting now a Pishnai, a Nachla is only from his brother, but not from his father. And this would be considered that he's getting from his father. So there's no din of the Yavam getting the deceased brother's portion from the father's estate. there's a there's talk on this halacha, and the Chavdalid, there's something about this issue about the Bechor getting the Yavam getting the state of the Pishnayim of the father. But just to read the words the way it seems to say, that's what the Gemara seems to say. But as far as halacha goes, we're not going so far. But the Gemara seems to say that the Bechor, that the Yavam does not get what the brother would have gotten from his father's estate. The Gemara Kasha, if it goes together, something here about the Nachla, Ema, Hechad Leka Av Dishkol Nachla Tiskai Mitzvah Zibon, Hechad Dika Av the Lo Shakal Nachla Lo Tiskai Mitzvah Zibon. According to Yehuda, that Yavam doesn't get the Nachla when the father's alive. Maybe there's no Mitzvah Yibum. Maybe the Mitzvah Yibum was only when there's a Nachla to get, and it goes together. And if there's a father alive, then he wouldn't get any Nachla. Maybe there's no Mitzvah Yibum. Again, inside, Ema, when there's no father and he's getting a Nachla, then there's a Mitzvah Yibum. But Hechadika Av, and the Yavam is not getting any Nachla, maybe there's no Mitzvah Yibum. So the Gemara says, no, it's nothing to do with each other. Me, the Yibum, Benachla, Talar Rahmana, does the Pasuk say that Yibum is dependent on getting a Yerusha? He has to do Yibum. If there's a Nachla, he'll get. If not, not. The same way, I think that if the man who died without children, he also has no money either. No children, no money. He's not going to say that there's no din of Yibum because he doesn't get a Nachla, so he's not going to do Yibum. Has nothing to do with each other. So there's a mitzvah of Yibum, and if there's a Nachla, he gets it. If there's no Nachla, he doesn't get it. So far, the Gemara passed like Rabbi Yehuda, Ula and Rabbi Yitzchak and Apacha, they passed like Rabbi Yehuda, they brought the drasha and where he gets it from, that if the father is still living, so then the father gets the Nachla, even though the son is doing Yibum. The Gemara continues, Rab Chanina Kara, I think it's called Kara because he was the Lashon of Mikra, that he taught Chumash, he taught Psukim. I thought there's some other, I think other Gemaras, the Gemara does say such a thing, that he taught like a Malam Adardiki, he taught children, I'm not sure, or he knew Psukim well. But anyway, it says here that he said over in front of Rabbi Yanai that Allah is like Rabbi Yehuda. Amalei, we just said the same thing before. We said Ula said so, Rabbi Yitzchak Napacha said Allah is like Rabbi Yehuda, that if the father is here, so he gets the Nachla and the Yavam does not. And he said so, Allah is like Rabbi Yehuda. Amalei, so Rabbi Yanai said that's not true. Make your announcement outside. It means the word kara can mean like a crier, someone who announces and makes declarations. He makes announcements. So announce your announcement outside. It means not the bismedrash. Go outside if you want to announce this thing. Don't say it over here because it's not true. Make your announcement someplace else. In other words, the halacha is that halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda. And even if the father is here, the Yavam gets the Nachla, like the Rabbanan, who argue on Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah. And in fact, somebody said that Tana doesn't say his name, but somebody said over in front of Rabbi Nachman, which is saying the Lachas like the Rabbanan, that even if there's a father, the Yavam gets the Nachla. He also is like Rabbi Yanai that he held not like Rabbi Yehuda, but him it was Pshita. The first case we had that Rabbi Chanina said the Lachas like Rabbi Yehuda, he said, you're wrong, don't say such a thing. And here somebody said, Ein Alachak Rabbi Yehuda, and he said, yeah, it goes without saying, Pshita, Yachad Rabbi Malachak Rabbi. Whenever you have machlokas about a majority against a minority, it goes without saying that you pass like the majority. So here the Rabbanan say that in any case, the Yavam gets the Nachla, only Rabbi Yehuda is a Das Yachad, the minority opinion that says that the father gets the Nachla, they're not going to pass like him. So it goes without saying. Amalei Yisamye, should I erase it? Means that I had this Masorah to say, Ein Alachak Rabbi Yehuda, and now you tell me that it's Pashit, so there's no reason to say it. So should I erase it from my learned teachings? Yeah. So he said no. Amalei lo. Talacha asnayach. That the reason why you have it in your teaching is because somebody told you the opposite. Somebody told you Halacha Rabbi Yehuda, and that's a big chiddush. And it's such a big chiddush that it's not true. He's saying that somebody told you the Halacha Rabbi Yehuda that the father gets the Yerusha, and that's why it was necessary to say it, because it's taka against the rule of Yachad Rav Halacha Rav, and here you wanted to pass like the Yachid, and therefore you have difficulty with that because you didn't understand how can you pass like Rabbi Yehuda against the Rabbana, and because of that you switched it around, you changed it around, and you said Allah is not like Rabbi Yehuda. That's why you have it in your teaching, because you have to come with lafuke of what you were taught. And according to what you switched it around, you're right. You're right that she switched it around in Rabbi Yehuda, and then you don't have to erase it because the reason why it came in, we know how it came in because of a mistake. So keep on saying it, in Rabbi Yehuda. So just to sum up what happened over here, the Yavam gets the Yerusha of the deceased brother. If he does Yibum, if he does Chalitza, he doesn't. Don't think that he gets more. Don't think that he gets less. He gets like anybody else. What's the halacha of anybody else? If there's a father around, the father gets it. If there's no father, so then the brothers divide equally. That's all about Chalitza. If there's Yibum, so then he does get the Nachla. Machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan. If the father's still living, does the father get it? And Many paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, but it comes out at the end, they don't pass like Rabbi Yehuda. And even if there's a father, the Yavam gets the Nachla, if he does Yibum. Agav, the Gemara said that the Rasha about a Bechor, we don't pass like Rabbi Yehuda, who says that he's only B'chayab, even only means even a Chayab, also he's going to get it. The Gemara says that it's not Yibum, not Tali B'Nachla, even if there's no Nachla, also he does Yibum. But if there's a Nachla, the Yavam is the one who gets it if he does the mitzvah of Yibum. The next Mishnah, some of these ideas we had before already, but now we're coming to the Mishnah. Yes, we spoke about it other times, but here's where the source is. Yes?
The band that's born,
Now that the Gemara said before that you don't do that even you don't even do the Pshut Shem Mikveh. The Gemara said on the Chavdala that's an exception to the rule. Usually, even though we have a drash, but then Mikveh Yosem Midei Pshuta. But over here, Mikveh Yosem Midei Pshuta, you don't call the son on the name of the father, of the deceased father.
That's called the name.
You don't call the name. You might have thought Yaakov L'Shem Machiv. You might have thought that it means that you call them the same name, Yosef, Yochanan, Yochanan. No, you don't do that. There's no mitzvah to call the son the name of the deceased brother, and it just means that Yavam gets the Nachla. That was the Gemara of Chavdala.
But again, we're talking about then you don't have to call by the name of this deceased
Uncle.
Uncle, right? Exactly.
Right.
But doesn't he get Nachla?
That's what we're saying. Who gets Nachla?
The
Yavam.
The son.
Which son? No, the son doesn't get it. The Yavam gets the Nachla, and then eventually when he dies, then all of his sons get his Nachla. One of them is going to be this son. There'll be other sons also from other wives, other sons. Doesn't make a difference. So there's no din that the son who's born is going to get the Nachla of his deceased uncle, who was his mother's first husband. Nothing. It just says that the Yavam gets the Nachla. That's our Mishnah. The Yavam gets the Nachla. The next Mishnah. When someone does chalitza, so we look at it a little bit like it was his wife that he divorced, even though it's not a wife. She never was his wife. It was his brother's wife. But when he does chalitza, so then it becomes her relatives. He's surely not allowed to marry her. He's not allowed to marry her. That's called chalutza. So and chibin shalabana shuvla yivna. We said before that it's only it was a chiddush that it's only a losa say, even though it used to be a chiv kares, and now it's the brother's wife without a mitzvah of yibum because he did chalitza already. But the Gemara said it's only a lav. It's not going to be a chiv kares. And then we had the sugya about other brothers or the co-wives. It's going to be chalitza over there. That was Machlokes of Yochanan and Shlokish. But we're not going into all that. Here it just says that it becomes like his wife that he divorced, and he's usher to her relatives. When a person is usher to his wife's relatives, and even after his wife died, also the only exception is a sister, a wife's sister. Over there it says that he shouldn't take ishalach osalo sikach litzror. Over there it says in a lifetime. That's one exception to all the different arayas that after the wife would die, so he would be allowed to marry her sister. But all other relatives are also even after his wife would die. So here we're giving the din of a chalutza the same din as a grusha, as if he would have divorced his wife, and he's not allowed to marry her relatives, and she's not allowed to marry his relatives, as if they would have been married. And the Mishnah goes on to enumerate those arayas that are asa. I made a little chart over here. We'll put it on in a second. It says who asa be'ima. Maybe I could put it on at the same time. 1 second. Let's try to do that again. How does it go? So it says the list of the arayas. Here, the picture maybe is not so clear, but here's a man and his wife, and he died, and the brother did chalitza. That zigzag means that he did chalitza to her. So it says that he's usher to all of her relatives, and she's usher to all of his relatives. And the Mishnah goes on to enumerate that. Who usher ve'imo, ve'emimo, ve'emo vio, ve'vito, ve'bas pito, ve'bas bena. He's usher to all of her relatives. Her mother, her mother's mother, her father's mother, I'm not sure if I'm going in order, and her daughter, her daughter's daughter, and her son's daughter, and her sister, as long as his wife is still alive. Yep. Did I get it right? Yep. Yeah, and then Bita, Bas Bita, and Bas Beno, those are the relatives. If it would have been his wife, he'd be usher to all of those relatives, even though it's not his wife, it's his brother's wife. But now they did chalitza, so he's usher to all of those women as if it would have been his divorced wife. And now continues to say she's us to his relatives. First, what is that? We didn't talk about no Shnias. We didn't talk about Shnias at all. And then the Mishnah does say Va'achin Mutar. Let's say there's another brother here. Let's say this brother, another brother. He didn't do chalitza. Only one of the brothers does chalitza. The rest of them don't have to. The one brother does one chalitza to one of the wives. So the issur that we're creating now is only between the one who did chalitza, the man and the woman who did chalitza. So then he's us to all the relatives. But let's say another brother who didn't do chalitza, he'd be allowed to marry them. He's allowed to marry them. There's no issur for a person to marry his brother's wife's relatives. So the one who did chalitza, we make him consider his wife, not only the deceased brother's wife. It's his wife a little bit. The fact that he did chalitza, so he's usher to marry them. But another brother, all the other brothers wouldn't be allowed to marry them. They're not usher. And the other way, now it goes the other way. And she is usher in his relatives. What are his relatives that she's usher in? His father, his father's father, his son, his son's son, his brother, and his brother's son. That these would have been a rise. If it would have been marriage, it would have been usher to marry each one. We could say a person's not allowed to marry his brother's wife. Okay, this anyway would have been usher. And now his father's brother's wife, an aunt, a grandfather's brother's wife. So these would have been us. These are usher. And l'chora, if it would have been everything through the fathers, so then it would have been us even from the l'chora would have been us from the first brother also. Not only because now he became usher, these usher they would have been usher anyway because of the first marriage. The Gemara is going to talk about if it's only a relative from the mothers, also might become usher now. Let's see further. And then the Mishnah says, "Mutar adam b'krovas toras chalutzaso, v'asar b'tzoras krovas chalutzaso." We had this before also. A person is mutar to marry the relative of the co-wife of his chalutza, but he's also to marry the co-wife of the relative of his chalutza. So two diagrams over here. Where's that? Here's how does it go? Which one is first? Krovas tzoras chalutzaso. Krovas tzoras chalutzaso. Here's the man who did chalitza to his brother's wife. Here's the two brothers. One of them was married, and he had two wives. He died without children. And the brother did chalitza to one of them. So he's also, that's chalitza. So he's not allowed to marry her. He's also not allowed to marry the tzara because he's only allowed to marry once he chivin shalabana shuvla yivna. There's no mitzvah anymore. There might even be a chiv chorus. Okay, but now how about her sister? Krovas, the relative of the co-wife of his chalutza. She's the chalutza. She's the tzaras chalutza. She's the krovas tzaras chalutza. Is the man allowed to marry the relative, here's the sister of the co-wife of his chalutza. So it says that it's mutter. But if you switch it around, instead of krovas tzaras, it'll be tzaras krovas chalutza. So here's the case that is the relative, the co-wife of the relative of his chalutza. This we are going to say that it's asa. And of course, it needs explanation. What's the difference between these two? The same amount of relations. It's a co-wife and a sister. Either a sister's co-wife or a wife's or a sister's co-wife or a co-wife sister. And we make a difference. Here we say that a sister's co-wife is asa, and a wife's and a co-wife's. How does we go? Here, a co-wife sister is mutter.
Yeah, mutter.
And a sister's co-wife is asa.
Sisters.
Means co-wife means you put a husband over here. I didn't put a husband. Make another husband over here. So they're co-wives. How could they be co-wives? It has to be a common husband. So there's a common husband over here. We'll see more about this. We're not going to go into this. This is only the Mishnah so far. But we'll see the Gemara next time. And with this Machokas Rishonim over here, if this is only asa when there's a brother over here. We'll leave it for now, just to say what the words alone mean. Rashi says like this, that this case is asa. This is his chalutza. His chalutza. That chalutza, once he does chalutza, so he becomes asa to her relatives. He becomes asa to his relatives. She becomes asa to her relatives. And the Mishnah says a list of relatives. But the list of relatives, l'chora, happens to be all on. They would have been the rice if it would have been his wife. If it would have been his wife, mama's wife, then it would have been us on the rice level. We had before a list of shnios, means that Rabbanan made and added generations of Isurei Erva. That we had with the right, let's say with the rice is also to marry a woman's mother, a woman and her mother or her grandmother. But as Bas Beno, Bas Bita will be the two generations. How about another generation? The wife's great grandmother would be mutter the rice. So you'd be allowed to have relations with her, but Mirabana not. Then there's a whole list of shnios we had before. And now the question is, the one wants to know, did they also make the Rabbanan of shnios also by chalutza? The whole din of chalutza is Rabbanan. The rice says she's not his wife. She does the chalitza. We look at it like a grusha. We say chalutza is going to be confused with a grusha. If you're going to say that the relatives mutter to marry the relatives of a chalutza, people might come to marry the relatives of a grusha, and that's going to be yasser. So did they also make a double? Did they make also the shnias on the chalutza also? Goes with shnias b'chalutza alone. What's the question? Wherever the Raisa goes with rabbanan shnias b'chalutza goes with rabbanan shnias. So did they make the gzeira of shnias only on the Raisa, on ever the Raisa? So they made another fence to even make the shnias aser. But by rabbanan it's going to be too far. It's going to be like a double rabbanan. The chalutza already is rabbanan, and then to make also on that shnias maybe it's two rabbanan. So they made it also. Tashma. Try to bring up the chart over here. Up the wrong one. What did I do? This one. Shma. Who aser be'imo be'em ima ve'ilu aim ima lo katani. That's the question. How come it doesn't say more? It says he's aser to marry her mother and her mother's mother. How come it doesn't go further? It means there's a shniya with Rabbana that a person not allowed to marry his wife's great grandmother either. It doesn't say that over here. So isn't that mashma that there's no shniyas by chalutza? Only if it be his wife is it also to marry her great grandmother. But to a chalutza there's no such issa. Tashma who asa be'imo be'em ima, but it doesn't say more. Bilu aim ima lo katan. It doesn't say he's asked to marry his wife's great grandmother. So the Gemara says, "Del mohainu time at the lotani mishum de kabayla misti seifa v'achin mutarin v'itana aim ima avamena achin mutarin dafka be'aim ima avol be'aim ima ve'ima lo." That if it really it should have said also that he's also to marry. Maybe he's also to marry the great grandmother also. But the reason I didn't say that because she continues and says that the brother's mutter. It's only also for him to marry her relatives, but it's mutter for the brother to marry that woman's relatives. And if it would have put in the list over there also the great grandmother, you would have said maybe it's only mutter for the brothers to marry the shnios, that generation. But if the ones that are the first, the Raisa Erva, if it would have been a wife, you might think that they made exera even on the brother. The brother also shouldn't marry all those women. Kamash Malan, that's why I left it out, in order to be clear that the brother's mutter even to marry the close relatives of that woman, it's mutter also. And it's the Gemara says right away that's a pretty bad, we could have avoided that mistake. The listening in aim ima, the listening achin mutar and bekula and kasha. You could have added one more word that would have taken away the whole confusion. Say everything that's aser, and not only the rice aser, even the rice rabbanan shnius is also aser, and it's aser for him to have relations with the woman's great grandmother. Say that beferish, and then you want to make sure that people understand that the brothers are married to marry anybody. So say achin mutar and bekulan. Don't say achin mutar and say achin mutar and bekulan in all of them. So it'll be clear that not only mutar in the shnios, even aser in the rishonos, even aser in the rayas that would have been the rice of all. So kasha. Okay, so the Gemara is okay. The Gemara is a dochak, but the Gemara says I'm not going to be convinced because of that. I still don't know. I don't know if shnios are aser or not. The Gemara says I could be dochik that really aim ima is also aser. Maybe shnios is also aser. The Gemara is still looking for a proof. Tashma. He asura be'aviv u'be'avi aviv. Let's see. It says the other way. She's asur to his father and his father's father. Is that considered shnios or not? The relation between the cholates, the man that did chalitza, his grandfather, and the woman that he did chalitza to, is that on a shnia level or is that on a deraisa level? If it would have been a wife, So he says here, my love, mishum choles, devi lo kalas beno. It's the right is also to marry a daughter-in-law. It's that's a chiyuv skill. It's also to have relations with a daughter-in-law, even if the son would have died. He can never have relations with his son's wife. How about a grandson's wife? Means another, not the way to say that. A son's daughter-in-law means it's also to have a kala zasa, a daughter-in-law zasa. Kala means daughter-in-law, doesn't mean a bride. A kala means a daughter-in-law. And kalas beno is only a shnia. The issa to have relations with a son's daughter-in-law is only Rabbanan. A son's daughter-in-law. And here it says that, here that's what it seems to say. It seems to say that this man's grandfather cannot marry this woman with the chalutza. It seems because it's a son's daughter-in-law. But it's only really chalitza because this is a chalutza over here. That's what we want to know. That we're not. It's not a regular marriage. It's a chalutza, and we wanted to know: is there shnias by chalutza? It seems to say yes. The fact that it says that she cannot marry his father's father, that seems to say that it's kalas beno, even though it's not. Even though it's only a shnia. It's only. I'm sorry. Even though it's only a chalutza over here. So you see, there goes the shnias by chalutza. That's what the Gemara says in the first wide line. My love mishum choles, davi lo kalas beno. Don't you see that they made shnias by chalutza also, but the Gemara says no. That's not the reason. It's also lo mishum misna. That will kalas beno. Don't forget that there's another son over here. It means this one talking about the cholates. Don't forget that he did chalitza to his brother's wife. There's a brother over here. If you look closely, there's a brother that died, and they're brothers by the same father. It means that this father is also his father. It's not only his father; it's his father also. And over there, it's a real kalas beno. That's a real erva. The reason why he can't have relations with her is not because of the new cholates. It's because of the original son. The original son that was married to her. So this is his son's wife. That's called his son's daughter-in-law. So it's not a riot that shnias is also by a chalutza. Maybe shnias is only also by the erva, and this is a real erva, not because of a chalitza. So that's not approved. Tashma ubeben beno. It says also that she's not allowed to have relations with his grandson. You know, but ben beno that this grandson would also to marry this chalutza. And what is that? What is the relationship over there? My love, mishum choles davila hs avi aviv. If you look at that, how it looks, it means that it's his hs. Not really. They only did chalisa. It wasn't really a marriage, but it looks like hs avi aviv, his grandfather's wife. And that means that we're looking at this chalitza as the same. We're giving it the din of a shnia. The hs avi aviv is only a drabanan. It's only a shnia. So doesn't that sound like they made shnias? They considered it shnios over here. And so you see that's a chalutza. We're considering chalutza the same thing, same level as we made shnias on the right. So we made shnias on a chalutza also. And we said that he's not allowed to have relations with his grandfather's chalutza.
Yeah.
But the Gemara says again, no, don't forget that there's a brother over there. And forget about the chalitza. Even if it would have been a chalitza, it's also because it's his grandfather's brother's wife. And that's a shnia. There the Gemara says, my love mishum choles davila hs avi aviv, and that's a shnia on the chalutza. The Gemara says lo mishum misna. Don't forget that there's a dead man over here. That was the other brother. Davila hs achi avi aviv. It's his grandfather. It's his grandfather's brother's wife. Here it is, grandfather's brother's wife. Not because it is chalutza. The chalutza wouldn't make shnias. The reason why it's us is because of the original brother that he was married to her. So this is his father's brother's wife, and that's a shnia. So that's why it's also not because of the chalitza. But the Gemara says not so simple. We had this Gemara before. Of course, it's hard to remember. I don't remember it myself, but it says here that over there was an issue, and Amema said that it's kosher. It's not a shnia. It's mutter to marry a grandfather's brother's wife. So you can't say the reason why it's also over here is because it's of the original marriage that it's the grandfather's. One second. That it's the grandfather's brother's wife. The reason why it's us is because it's a grandfather's wife or divorcee, and that's why it's us to say. See, there's shnias by a chalutza. Ameima. So the Gemara says a big dochak l'chora. Ameima mukila bebar brother saba. When we look at this Mishnah, that it said that it's usher for her to marry his father and his grandfather and his son and his grandson. That's how we read the Mishnah simple. That's how the Mishnah reads. That it's also for her to marry his father, his grandfather, his son, and his grandson. I'm not saying a dochak, that when it says his son, since we started talking about his father and his grandfather, his father and his father's father, then it says his son. So I'm not saying a big dochak to say his son doesn't go back to the original subject. It's going on this one. It's going on the father. and it means that it's also to marry his son and his grandson. It doesn't say this generation. This generation cross out. It doesn't say that it's also for the grandson of the Choletz to marry the Chalutza. No, that only will be Shnias on a Chalutza. We're not going to do that. And what it says is only that the grandson of the father, that the Saba, he calls it the Saba over here, that the grandson of the grandson of the grandfather. So maybe that's all it says, and it's only saying that it's Aser, the son and the grandson of and he's the subject. When he started saying about his father and his father's father, then when it continues, it's talking about the father, and it says his son and his son's son. And this also will be his the brother, that's all his son and his son's son. The Gemara continues. How does it read into the words? Is the grandson of the grandfather. If so, the Mishnah continues. The Mishnah said, father's father, son's son, and then the brother and the brother's son. But if you're saying that when we say the son and the son's son, it means he's the subject, that this man is the subject. So then it doesn't, then it's repetitious. When it says afterwards, it says about the brother and the brother's son, it said it already. It's included when it says before this man, the Saba's son and grandson. So that's already saying, that's the saying the brother and the nephew of the dead man. It's the same person as the son and the grandson of the Saba. So it wouldn't make sense to say that that's the pshat. The answer is, it wants to tell you that even if it wouldn't be the brother from the same father, would it be a brother only from the same mother, also will be considered an erba. But so it's not considered repetitious. Tashma. So the Gemara went through the Mishnah and couldn't prove that the Shni is by Chalutza. But now it brings a brisa. The brisa is very similar to everything it says in the Mishnah, but it adds on a little bit more. The next diagram is going to add on a little bit more. Here it just said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On the one that she's also to marry 6. A father's father, a son's son, and a brother and his son. But the brisa is going to add on a little bit more. I took away the right side. We're not interested in that. We just want the ones that she's also to. Here the brisa says the same thing, but it adds on 2 more. Here you have the addition over here. Besides saying the father's father, it also says the mother's father. Again, that the woman with the kat chalitza is also to have relations with the mother's father. And also, besides saying the son's son, it also adds on the daughter's son. That's what Rav Chia says more. The Gemara is going to prove from this the question about shniyas. So let's try it inside. Tashma, maybe I can get it over here. Up,
Picture.
a little bit smaller. 1 second.
Look at it and memorize it.
No, okay. Try one more time. Tashma. The Tani Gabichia. Abba Medeve Tov, Abba Medeve Sof. Gabichia says that there are 8 that are listed. In our Mishnah only has 6. He has 8. Then he says out of the 8, 4 Daraisa, 4 Drabanan. And now we'll see it. I think you can get it on the picture now. Here it is. Av, Ubno, Achiv, Uben, Achiv, Medeve Torah. Here it is, a father, a son, a brother, and a brother's son. That's called Medeve Torah. That will be a Daraisa. Avi Aviv, Avi Imo, Ben Beno, Ben Bito, Medeve Sofer. They're also Aser. The father's father, the mother's father, the son's son, and the daughter's son. So these 2 cases, there are 2 cases. The Mishnah had 6 cases, he added on 2 more. And he says these are also, so she's also to marry all, the Chalutza is also to marry all of these relations. And now the Gemara goes through it again and wants to figure out, is there a Shniya? Could you find the Shniya over here? What's the question of the Gemara? Is Shniya also by Chalutza? We had by Arais that they made Shniyos. And the question is, by Chalutza, that was saying also has a din with Rabbanan of a Grusha, is it, and he's also to marry her relatives, she can marry his relatives, is it also going to make a Shniyas on that also? So we're going to go through the same thing. A lot of it's going to be what we just did a second ago, but the Gemara is going to come to one case which we didn't have. That's going to prove the question. Katanimiya avi aviv. My love mishum choletz avi lakalas beno lo mishum misna da v'kalas beno. So we went through this already, but the Gemara is going through it again because that's leading up. It says that she's also to marry the choletz, his father's father. Isn't that a shniya? Because what's the relationship between them? A son's daughter-in-law. A son's daughter-in-law is only a shniya. And the one is looking at it that it's not really a son's daughter-in-law because it's not really married. This choletz didn't really marry, just a chalitza. So it seems to be looking at it like it's a marriage, and it's also shnias by a chalutza, a son's daughter-in-law. So the Gemara says the same thing as before. We answered the kasha already. No, don't forget that there's also the dead brother. The dead brother's also, he died already, but he's also the son of that man. So it's a son's daughter-in-law, not because of the cholitz, but because of the original man that died. And that's why you can't have relations with her even before the chalitza, because it was his deceased son's
Wife.
So how does it go? His son's deceased son-in-law, daughter-in-law, not because of the cholish. You have here two relations. I hope it's clear on the chart. Maybe make it bigger for here. That besides the original son that died, now this brother did chalitza. And first the Gemara wants to know: are we going to ask shnios because of the chalitza? But the Gemara is saying, don't forget that there's also this son who originally died, who was original, and that's a real marriage. And of course, he's also to marry his son's daughter-in-law, his son's wife, not his son's chalutza, but his son's wife. So it's not a proof. So it's not a proof. The Gemara continues. Tashma avi imo. This Rabbi added on. He said not only the father's father, also the mother's father. He's also not allowed to have relations with her. And the Gemara goes through the same thing. My love mishum choletz, davila kalas bito. Why is it also for him, the mother's father, to have relations with the chalutza? Isn't it because we look at the chalutza, it's called the the daughter-in-law of his daughter, his daughter's daughter-in-law. How is it a daughter's daughter-in-law?
Yeah.
Because his daughter's son's wife. That's not really a wife; it's really a chalutza. So isn't that a reason why it's asr? And you see that this shnias by chalutza, my lav mishum choletz. Maybe in the right place over here. 1 second. Aviimo. My lav mishum choletz davila kalas bito. Lo mishum misna davila kalas bito. Don't forget again that this original marriage that was, and here it's also going to be her son. This might be Kimto. It could be that it's all not necessarily it's going to be from the same mother. I think I didn't think it through, but the case will be that they also have the same mother. Yeah. These two brothers have the same mother, and the reason why it's usher for her to have relations with the man's mother's father is because it was her original husband's mother's father. So you still have the raya that the chalitza makes it like that should be a shnias also. The Gemara continues. Toshma. I think the Gemara is just leading up to the last raya. Ben Beno, we had this before also in the Mishnah, that it says that the grandson is not allowed to have relations with her. Isn't that a shnia? That's a grandfather's wife. A grandfather's wife is a shnia. And you see that it's only that it goes to shnias by chalutza also. Where's it inside? Tashma Ben Beno. My love mishum choles davla eshes avi ovid. And it's see shnias by chalutza. Lo mishum misna davla eshes achi avi ovid. Again, the same thing, that it's not because of the chalitza. Don't forget about the original husband. The original husband, it comes out, the relationship between this grandson and that woman, besides the chalitza, would also be the father's brother's wife. And the Gemara says that's not because of the father's wife, the father's brother's wife. And that also is shnios. But the Gemara said a second ago, that's not so simple. That was a question. Amemra said not. And that's the Gemara asks again over here. Amemra doesn't hold it out. Amemra holds that there is no isser of shnios to marry your father's brother's wife. So the Gemara gives in us over here. You're right. So far, that much we will give in that according to Amemra, we have a good proof. Amemra mukim lo mishum choles v'kasav goes with shnios b'chalutz. So you're right. According to Amemra, I have no way out. According to Amemra, there is no such isser of a father's brother's wife. It must be a father's wife, and it's only chalitza over here. It's not a real wife. It's only chalitza, and you see that it's usher. So we could prove, according to Amemra, we'll have a good proof that it is usher. Gazru shnias b'chalutza. That by chalutza also is usher, even the shnias rabbanan. But we're still saying not everybody agrees to Amemra. If you argue on Amemra, you still could say this dichoy. Now the Gemara comes to the, how do you call that? A clincher, it's called? That one that's going to be the raya. Tashma over ben vito. There it is. Over ben vito. Let's put it on this. It says also, Rafi added on this case also, ben vito. That the chalutza is not allowed to marry the choletz's daughter's son.
Son, yeah.
And what is that? And what's that relationship? That's going to be my la davule eshes avi imo. We look at it like avi eshes avi imo. If we look at the chalitza as if it would have been a marriage, and then it means that it's his mother's father's wife, and that's a shniya. If he's asked to marry this chalutza, it must be, we look at it like a wife, and that's a mother's father's wife. So you see, it goes with shniyas by chalutza. The Gemara says no, maybe it's because of the dead man, and that would be a mother's father's brother's wife. The Gemara says there's no such thing. There is no such shniya. There's no such shniya. It's not also to marry a mother's father's brother's wife. That's what the Gemara says. The Gemara tries to get out of it. Lo, mishum misna. It's because of the dead man. It's the mother's father's brother's wife. But the Gemara says there's no such thing. There is no such thing. There's no such issur to marry a mother's father's brother's wife. So the Gemara is happy with the proof. It is a good proof that the word goes to shniyas by chalutza. The whole thing of chalutza is only rabbanan. That they consider the wives only rabbanan. The Mishnah over here, it said those are some arayas, but it only said that the raisa ones. But you should know that it goes to the shniyas also. Even though it didn't say it, it also goes with shniyas by chalutza. The same way he's not allowed to marry the relatives that would be on the raisa level. He's also not allowed to marry the relatives that also would be a shniyah. Ad kan. We have time still, but I didn't prepare further. I don't know. So this is it for today. And Vez Hashem, everybody have a good Yom Tov, a good Moed, a good Yom Tov, a good Shabbos. And we'll meet Vez Hashem, what's the Shabbos? At 9:00 also. And should be a good Yom Tov for everybody. And we're missing another daf over the double Yom Tov Shabbos, which we always do. And now instead of being 5 blot behind, we'll be 6 blot behind. And Vez Hashem help us to catch up one day. Yashikach, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. A good Moed, good Shabbos. Thank you.